The situation with the day before continues to evolve and change, and we were going to wait to do a full documentary style coverage of this in a talk show and like a lengthy monologue, but I needed to update you on some things that have happened, and I thought, let's do this in an upload. It's a shorter format, so we may end up doing a full-on breakdown of everything that has happened with this game in the future in a live show, but wanted to do this because we have covered this game quite extensively. I called it fake. I called it a scam from very early on, and I got a lot of heat for that. And obviously, we've seen in the wake of everything that turned out to be exactly right. Now, I also have gameplay on the channel that you can check out if you want to see my experience with the game and everything that happened. You know, now obviously nobody can play it. Nobody can buy it. The game was a complete and utter disaster. In the wake of the studio shutting down, they have also taken to Twitter to talk about how they're trying to work with Steam for refunds. I basically took to Twitter and said that I feel like Steam should just automatically refund anybody that bought it because in just such a breakneck speed, record-breaking time, the game hit Steam, is no longer available, and now the studio is shutting down. But they're not just shutting down. I have information about them changing their names. I also have information about the fact that another game was affected by this simply because Fntastic was listed as the developer on it. So we're going to look at that in just a moment. Now, initially, Mytona, the publisher, took to Twitter to say the following to all of the Day Before players. As the investor of the Day Before, we would like to provide some updates on the current situation around the game. We are sorry for the fact that the game didn't meet expectations of the majority of the players. Today, we will work with Steam to open up refunds for any players who chose to make a refund. We're in contact with Fntastic regarding the future of the game. Now, I, again, tried to really draw people's attention and report on this as quickly as I could. I had somebody relay to me that they had gotten a refund and had played the game for like 20 hours. Like, apparently they were really trying to make it work, and they really put in the time, and they still got their refund. Now, Fntastic has also tweeted the following. They tweeted this on December the 11th. They said, answer to those who ask for a refund, Mytona, and we are currently working with Steam to allow refunds for any player who chooses to request one, regardless of the game time. Fntastic received $0 and will receive nothing from the Day Before sales. Now, given their pattern of dishonesty, I don't believe them about this. I don't know if they're going to be able to actually receive $0 because at the time of my reporting on this last time, there was 200,000 sold and roughly 100,000 had refunded, and that means there's about 100,000 people who would still have been given them $40. Now, they obviously get 70% of that. Steam gets its 30% cut. I find it hard to believe that 100,000 people who had not yet refunded it within the first 24 hours of the game, they might not be seeking to refund it. Some people will put up with a pretty buggy game. Some people will think that it's their PC, right? They'll think that they're the problem. Some people don't know that you can get a refund, right? So if every single one of those people have gotten a refund, then yes, Fntastic will get no money from the sales. But if 70,000, 60,000 people didn't get a refund, well, where's that money going, right? It's not going into like an escrow account. It's not going into holding. It's not going to go to Steam. It's going to go to Fntastic. So with their pattern of dishonesty, I don't believe them, okay? I don't believe they're setting this up to receive no money at all right? They're trying to posture in this way because of the backlash. I think that the community answered very loudly, but they're also changing their name, which makes it even more suspicious. Now, this comes from GameRand. And it says here, following the disastrous launch of the Day Before, Fntastic may not have actually shut down, but rather rebranded itself as 8 Points. Merely 4 days after releasing its post-apocalyptic zombie shooter, Fntastic announced it was closing down its studio due to financial failure. Now, again, we're taking them at their word, and there's no reason to do that because there's a pattern of dishonesty. And saying there was a financial failure, again, that's assuming they're telling the truth about working on the game for 5 years. I said this today in a member stream. I said, I knew they were lying the minute they responded to the accusations that they were not making a real game, and the psychological response was not immediate outrage and a showing of dev diary, version control of the game, raw gameplay, technical tests. They didn't show us any of that. Any studio right now, if they suddenly came under fire, and somebody said, hey, you're not making a real game, or you're not actually making a game, they would respond within the day with copious amounts of proof if the game is in fact real. You would not struggle to upload raw gameplay. They still, up until the launch of the game, never provided the public with raw gameplay, and they were always making up weird reasons as to why videos came down. It was the trademark dispute, but then not all the videos came down, and then they never put those videos back up. And that was the minute I knew. I was like, these guys are lying. And this is all based off of that lie. The financial failure assumes they're telling the truth, that they worked on the game for 5 years and they spent all this money. And within the 24 hours of the game launching, they sell 200,000, 100,000 refund, and then there's no more sales. Nobody's going to a Steam game with a 19% and buying it. So the minute your score is that low, you're just going to absolutely not get any money. You're not going to get any more sales. So them saying, oh, we're closing due to financial failure, I don't believe that. And I especially don't believe it in light of this news that they're changing their name. It says, when the day before was initially announced, players were excited about the idea of an MMO survival game set in a zombie apocalypse, especially one Fntastic made when they made the switch to Unreal 5. Here's something we need to zero in on too on this MMO thing. In the wake of this game's disastrous launch, and right before it launched, they were trying to remove MMO as a tag or classification for the game, because it wasn't an MMO. It was just like an extraction shooter mode that was clearly slapped together. That also indicates that they weren't working on this for 5 years. The game they showed us 5 years ago, where they were at a gas station and then in a city and all these different areas, and suddenly they were out in sort of like a suburban area or like a rural area trying to get into a house, they made it look like it was this open world MMO survival game. Where is that game? Where were those assets? Where are those levels? Well, they don't exist, because they were merely using assets to generate highly rendered sequences to showcase what looked like incredible gameplay. So again, that's more proof of their dishonesty, that they promised us, this MMO survival game, and then they try to remove any trace of that, and now they're changing their name. Well, why are they changing their name? Well, they have a pattern, I guess, this is what I've been told. They have a pattern of doing this, like pumping up a game, getting a bunch of sales, and then abandoning the game. And, if the game is budget is, let's say the game budget's $100,000 and they sell enough copies to get paid by Steam, $200,000 to $400,000, you get just enough people to buy it. Well, you made a profit and you just walk away from the game. I mean, this game here, if my instinct is correct and they slap this game together in a matter of, this year or 6 months or something, and just pushed assets together, connected them loosely with, very poorly coded systems, and spent, I don't know, $100,000 to $200,000, they're still going to walk away with millions if those 100,000 remaining people did not, in fact, get their refund. So that's a lot of money. Now, the article continues. However, one controversy followed another, as the day before faced several delays and even a trademark dispute on its troubled launch. Now, when it made its debut on Steam, it released to an overwhelmingly negative review, with Fntastic being forced to close the game's official Discord server merely hours after launch. And the Discord mods have been pretty outspoken about feeling like they got kind of threw under the bus here, because they were just relaying information that was given to them. I'm expecting a tell-all at some point. We're going to get the truth about this game, okay? And I'm going to do a full-on stream breakdown, documentary style. Like, here's the history of this game. Here's the truth about what happened. But I want to do a video about this because it led to more than just the closure. It led to more than just the name change. It led to more than concerns about this being a scam. Like, this was designed for them to pump and dump. It was designed to be a rug pull. And there's even speculation about how did it become the most wishlisted game. That's also under suspicion. I think all of this needs to be investigated. I think Steam needs to look into that. Like, is their wishlisting manipulable? Like, were people able to manipulate this? Now, the surge of angry criticism came not only due from the false marketing of the day before, but also due to the content of the game itself. The playable map was merely an asset swap purchase on the Unreal Engine marketplace, allegedly assembled by volunteers, and its gameplay was littered with bugs. Now, here's where it gets worse, and for somebody completely separated from it, okay? Despite announcing future updates the day before its early success, the overwhelmingly negativity proved too much for Fntastic. The studio closed down, and Valve removed the ability for players to purchase the day before on Steam. However, according to the Steam database, it appears that the developer name for the Wild 8, another game from the same studio, was changed from Fntastic to 8 points. Due to Fntastic's lack of credibility, it's natural to assume the studio attempted to covertly rebrand itself to escape the ire of the gaming community. That being said, the truth appears to be much simpler. A different studio altogether wanted to distance itself from the Fntastic brand. So them renaming themselves is actually not that, okay? It's because of this other game that was getting lambasted. Like, look right here. Eurogamer reached out to publisher Hype Train Digital to clarify the emerging situation. While the Wild 8 was developed by Fntastic initially, the studio discontinued its work after launching the title for early access on Steam. Now, Hype Train Digital continued the development of the Wild 8 independently before severing all business ties with Fntastic in 2017. The problematic association with the day before caused Hype Train Digital to change the developer listed on Steam to 8 points, as the game received a flood of negative reviews from disgruntled day before players. So you're seeing people saying like, oh, they changed their name, they're going to do this again. Well, that's what it seems like, right? Everybody thinks like, oh, there's a pattern with this company. That's what they're going to do. They're going to do it again. I think it was all a part of the plan to use the day before to pump up the numbers to make a ton of money and then to just walk away entirely. They never planned on actually having a fully launched MMO game. My question was always, if it's going to be as big as they say it's going to be this massive MMO, then who's providing the server infrastructure? Like, how are you even going to have servers up and running? Like, look at what happened to New World, right? They had to spin up extra servers. That game was in high demand. And this looked like, oh yeah, they're changing their name. No, Hype Train Digital changed the name of the developer listed on this particular game, and here's what they had to say. Following the release of the day before on December the 7th, 2023, a wave of negative reviews for the Wild 8 began, unrelated to the game itself, but associated with the original development studio, Fntastic. Yesterday, we made the decision to remove any mention of the developer Fntastic from the game's page. As any and all social media presence for the day before has been scrubbed by Fntastic, it would appear that the studio behind the infamous zombie shooter truly closed down for good. While there is always the possibility that it will return under a new name in the future, this experience will probably cause players to be even more wary of pre-launch hype. We're assuming that there's like an actual studio here, right, with a ton of people. They use volunteers. What we played was an asset swap. And in the wake of this, their website's gone. The CEO nuked his Twitter. Like, they're basically just going dark. They're disappearing. That's why the name change felt plausible. It's like, they're changing their name. They're just going to do this again, right? Wouldn't surprise me if other companies try something similar. I think Steam needs to look into this. Was the most wishlisted, was that something that was manipulated with fake accounts, right? Could they invest money into basically creating a bunch of bot accounts, spending $5 per account? You know, you basically front the money for that, a couple $100,000 there to climb the wish list. You know, you front some money here, you know, maybe $100,000 for the assets from Unreal, slap it all together, throw it on, you know, become this weird viral game. And then if you get enough people, you're playing a numbers game, right? You get a couple 100,000 people to just not refund, then they could walk away with the money. So that's the latest update on this. I literally had a video that is already done really well on this channel. You may have already seen it. The day before is still fake. It was basically me talking about the game in the wake of playing it. We uploaded that. An hour after we uploaded that, they announced they were closing down on Twitter. So that video did amazing and it skyrocketed, but I didn't have any of this information for that video. So I hope you enjoy this rather quick update and flyover over everything that has happened since, about, you know, whether or not there's been a name change, whether or not you can get a refund, whether or not they're going to make money. I think this is still developing. We're going to do something a little bit more lengthy in a live environment later. As always, this is probably going to roll over into a members only debrief. That's a great way to support me in the channel directly. Consider clicking the join button, become a member for $5. And then you can get into all the extra content. If you're not going to do that, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button so you don't miss the uploads, the live shows, and make sure to hit that like button. And I'll see you in the next video.